In today's video, I want to talk about designing scrap quilts in EQ8. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts. And before we get into this topic, I just want to mention that I'm an affiliate for Electric Quilt that has the EQ8 software and lots of other products. And currently, as of the time of this recording in November 2025, they have 25% off all their products. So check up above or in the description below for my affiliate link, and you can save 25% off at Electric Quilt. Now, I want to talk about this particular quilt that I designed for my parents' 65th wedding anniversary. You can see a photo of it here. Now, it's all in blues, as you can see, and that's because the gift for the 65th anniversary is sapphire. So I always think of blue when I think of sapphire. And so I wanted to use all different types of blue fabric when I made this quilt, and I designed it in EQ8. So when I did that, what I did was that I mocked up a strip piece block. Now, if you don't know what strip piece block looks like, you can see I have a sample here. So in the majority of these blocks, not all of them, but the majority of them had this white strip in the center and then blue fabrics on either side. And I just arranged them in different ways. I rotated them in different ways to get the effect I wanted. Now, when I mocked this up in EQ8, I made one block with, white in the center and these different blue fabrics on either side. I did not make a whole bunch of different blocks with all different blue fabrics in them as I did in the actual quilt. So in EQ8, I made one block, then I just, placed it throughout the quilt, rotated those blocks as appropriate, and that's what I used to create my design, as you can see here. So this looks great, right? But when it comes time to actually make the blocks, I was using a whole bunch of different blue fabrics, okay? Not like what you're seeing in the EQ8 example. So things turned out a little differently. Again, I'll put up a picture of the quilt here. You can see it looks a little bit different, right? So I want you to consider when you're using scrap fabrics, you're using all different kinds of fabrics, right? Each block is going to be different. That's not the same as what I designed in EQ8. Yes, I could have scanned in the fabrics and created all these different blocks in EQ8 as I did for the real quilt, but that would have taken a lot of time. And quite frankly, I make these blocks on the go as it is, so I don't really have them all planned out in advance, so it would have been difficult to do that. How I like to use EQ8 when I'm designing a quilt like this is to give me information about the yardage I'm using for the borders and the size of the borders, the size of the blocks, how many blocks I need. So those are the things that were helpful in EQ8 for this particular project. But it did turn out to look a little different than I expected. So if you're using EQ8 to design scrap quilts, and it's a really helpful tool to do that, to design any quilt, keep in mind that your final real quilt could be, well, probably will be, quite a bit different when you make it. So that's something just to keep in mind. It's not to say you can't use EQ8 to make scrap quilts, but keep in mind, unless you are going to actually recreate each of those blocks that you're making in real life in EQ8, which probably means doing a lot of fabric scanning and uploading, it's still not going to look exactly the same, right? When you look at something on the computer screen, when you print something out, it's still going to look different than real fabric. So while it is a helpful tool, I want you to keep this in mind when you are designing in EQ8 using scrap fabrics. Now, to give you another example of what I'm talking about when I'm just designing quilts, this isn't a scrap quilt, but when I'm designing quilts, which I often do as an Island Batik ambassador, I do upload the actual fabrics and I have them in my design. But again, when I print it out, it looks a lot different than the real quilt. Some of that is also due to the fact that when you're using these fabrics in EQ8, the scale may be off a little bit. The colors are going to look a little different for sure. But what it does give me is a really good idea if I have enough contrast or not between my fabrics, because in a lot of these designs that contrast is critical. And so by mocking it up in EQ8, I can see if placing certain fabrics next to one another is going to work or not. And if it doesn't, it's really easy to change it in EQ8. Not quite as easy to change it in actual fabric that's already been stitched together into a block. So just a few things to consider when you're using this design tool to create your own quilt patterns. I've talked about creating this project using strip piece blocks. You may be wondering, how do you make a strip piece block? Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. Check out this video that has all the helpful information that you need. And for more quilting information, Be sure to go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.